Alright, hold the throttle down. Oh, yeah, like 80 PSI. That is not good. This thing's crammed in there. Ah, would you look at that? Ah, that's not good. Ah, no wonder this thing was smoking as bad as it was. That's not good. Just gonna wear out the starter. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, there's no way I'm pushing this thing out, so let's drag it out. One way to do it. Alright, so today we're going to be trying to figure out why the engine won't run on this project and what's wrong with it. Now, at Durham Town a couple months ago, this engine was running fine on day 1, and then day 2, I temporarily seized the engine from, I believe, overheating, but I'm not 100% sure that that's why it seized. All I know is it was a little bit warm, it seized, I tried pulling the spark plugs out, and I put a wrench on the crankshaft, and I could not turn the crankshaft over, so we let the engine cool down, and then once it cooled down, then it turned over, we put the spark plugs back in. It fired up, but ever since then, it's been smoking really badly, and it has been kind of a loss of power, and then the more I've been riding it, the worse it's smoking, and the more loss of power this thing has. But at least it was running until we got back from Durham Town. I was unloading it from the trailer, trying to put it back in the temporary garage. It did fire up when I was unloading it, but when I was moving it back in the temporary garage, I ended up killing the engine because I tried to accelerate without hitting the throttle, and I just let the clutch out and I killed the engine, and then it would not fire back up, and ever since then it has not fired back up. And I did a compression test last night on this, and the numbers are not good. It has very low compression, and I'm a little doubting that that compression test is accurate. So I want to do it again. I want to do another compression test on this just to verify that those numbers are correct. So let's take the gas tank off, let's take this off, possibly let's take the airbox off to get better access to this stuff, so therefore I could do another compression test on this, and then do a couple tests on this to see if it's the rings, is it the valves. Yeah, let's start taking this stuff off. It's always really annoying with the siphons because, you know, you're trying to put the hose in the gas tank, but it's all coiled up. So if you stick a steel wire through the hose, then you can actually control where it's going. So I drained most of the gas out, but every time I take this off, it always leaks a little bit because there's still fuel pressure and the residual gas in the fuel line. So it always just drips on the wiring harness. So oh yeah, let's just let that just go everywhere. So yeah, the next vehicle I build, the 2-seater project with the Hayabusa engine, I'm gonna do a better job on wiring management because this is not good. Not good at all. Yeah, let's just take the airbox off. It's gonna make it a little bit easier to get at this stuff. Oh no. Oh, that is not good. So this part of the airbox should be clean. There should be no dust in here. Look at this. Yeah. Okay, so clearly my air filters, these air filters are not doing a good job cleaning the air. These are actually just the stock air filters for a CBR 1000. Clearly they are not doing their job because this should be clean. In here should be dust free, and it is not. Look at that. Also, you can see there's a lot of dust going into the intake, into the engine, so oh, that's not good. That's not good. These are not designed to be filtering the heavy amounts of dust I'm driving this thing through. So I gotta get some better air filters. And just blow this off. Oh yeah, that's healthy. Oh yeah. And I know I just blew off all the dust into the intake, but we're either rebuilding this engine or just getting a new one, so it doesn't really matter if we blow a little bit more dust. It already inhaled a ton of dust, so a little bit more isn't gonna kill it, especially because we're possibly gonna be rebuilding this thing. This thing's just covered in dust. What this thing should have is 2 sets of air filters. It should have the air filters that's in the airbox, but then going into the airbox should be going into another box that has better filters, so it's double filtration. I think I'm gonna do that for the 2-seater projects. These things are in there. Alright, time to do compression test. Let's do cylinder number 1 first. I think this is number 1. Yeah, this hose trick that you guys said works pretty good. So every time, look at this, every time I pull out the spark plug, if this thing would focus, you can see the spark plug is wet, but it's not wet with gas. That's oil. It smells like oil, it feels like oil. This is not gas, and you can see there's a lot of carbon buildup on this spark plug especially. But a couple nights ago when I did a compression test before filming this video, every time I pulled the spark plugs out, the threads were covered in oil, the tips had oil on them, so it's not looking good. Not looking good for this engine. I have to tighten that on. Alright, so holding the throttle wide open, so... So it's not terrible. And remember, this was the cylinder that has the most compression. This isn't terrible, but it's not great. So cylinder number 1 has 120 psi. All right, cylinder number 2. These two, the middle two, was the worst. All right, hold the throttle down. Yeah, like 80 psi. 80 psi. That is not good. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure you're supposed to leave the other 3 spark plugs in. So, alright, cylinder number 3. So, slightly better, but still not great. When I originally did the compression test a couple days ago, both of the middle cylinders were at 60 psi, so they've gone up, which is why I wanted to redo this test. 60 psi compression test is not good, and I was really doubting that was accurate. But still, these numbers are insanely low for an engine like this. Alright, last one. Same thing. About 110, 115, somewhere around there. So, let's look at the service manual and see what the compressions should be. Alright, so I found checking engine compression. First of all, it does say that I need to remove all the spark plugs. And I didn't do that, so I'm wondering if that's going to skew the results. It also says I need to run the engine until it reaches normal operating temperatures before doing a compression test, but I can't do that because it won't run. It does say the correct pressures are given in Chapter 2 specifications, but I can't find them. I finally found the cylinder compression. It is, and I'm honestly I'm not sure what model this engine is. There's RR4s, RR5s, RR6s, and RR7 models, and I'm not sure which one this engine is. So RR4s and 5s is 159 psi, and the RR6 and 7 models is 178. So yeah, the compression on this engine is insanely low. Now, what you guys were saying on Instagram is a good test to see whether or not if it's the piston rings or the valves or the head gasket is do a compression test on one of the cylinders and then put a little bit of oil in that cylinder and do the compression test again. If the compression is a little bit higher with oil in it, then that confirms it is the piston rings. And if it's the same, then it could be the valves, it could be valve lash, or it could be the head gasket. So let's check the compression again on cylinder number 2 and verify what it is. Throttle wide open. All right, right at 90 psi. Now, we put a little bit of oil in that cylinder. We can't do too much. We don't want to hydrolock it. Alright, make sure to get it in the spark plug hole. I'm thinking like a little bit less than a cap. So. Alright, that should be good. Alright, let's cycle the engine a couple times to try to get the oil everywhere. Alright. Alright, now we check the compression again and see if it's changed. Yeah, check that out. That it's now, before it was 90, now it's 180. That doubled the compression of this thing. So yeah, that confirms that it is the piston rings. Unfortunately, it's not the valves. It's not valve lash, I don't think. I think this confirms it's the piston rings. I gotta call around and find a machine. I wonder if Lee would know of any machine shops. So, it's not looking good for this engine. Now, I just called Lee because Lee knows of a machine shop locally that can possibly bore out the cylinders on this engine. I'm kind of pondering, like, you know, do I take this whole engine apart, bore out the cylinders, get new pistons, bigger piston rings and all that kind of stuff, and then reassemble it? Or do I just spend $2,000 and buy a new engine on eBay? Or do I spend $2,000 or possibly even more than $2,000 rebuilding this thing and boring it out and everything? And I don't know. Either way, we have to take this engine out and take it. I really want to take the head off and take this, look at the cylinders and see how scored the cylinders are, because that'll kind of tell us if it's just the piston rings, and possibly if the cylinder walls aren't badly scored, maybe we can just hone it out and get new piston rings, and it'll fix it. But if the cylinder walls are heavily scored, which I'd be surprised if they weren't, then we do have to bore it out. So we got to take this thing apart. We got to take the engine out of the frame, take it apart, and figure out what to do from there. I don't know. This sounds expensive either way. So, let's first drain the coolant. Now, there's really no easy way to do this without making a mess, so you just have to embrace the fact that it's going to make a mess. This is making me need to pee. Let's let that drain for a bit. I gotta do something about this wiring. I mean, that's just bad. It's not good. Oh. Alright, that's throttle bodies. I'm gonna try and leave most of how am I going to do this? I don't want to disassemble this wiring, but I do have to get it out of the way to pull the engine out. So, is there can I... Alright, just kind of move the wiring to the side. There's the clutch. Just drop that in the coolant. Nice. Ooh, almost dropped it. It's funny how many comments I get of people thinking that this thing's running on only 3 cylinders, or it's running really wrong because... I'll admit, this thing does not sound like a normal CBR 1000, but that's because the muffler system on this is way different to a CBR 1000. On one of those bikes, all 4 cylinders go into one muffler. On this setup, 2 of the cylinders go into this muffler, the other 2 cylinders go into this muffler, and the firing order is something like, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, so it's, every other firing order, it's boom, 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 boom. So it's more like a Harley type of exhaust sound instead of a normal CBR 1000 where it's more just like a brrrr type thing. So everybody thinks like, oh, it's running on 3 cylinders. It sounds really weird, and it's like, it's not running on 3 cylinders, but yes, it does sound weird because the mufflers are built weird. Come on. There it is. Alright, all that's left holding this thing in now is just the engine mounts. So start taking those off and this thing should be ready to lift out of here. Loosen that up. Tilt the engine up slightly. Is there anything else connecting? Oh, this. I left this in here. Oh, left that in there. So now we just tilt the engine up, put this in here. Oh, God. Yeah, I think it's time for a new threaded rod. This one's really chewed up. Alright, this thing should just pop out now. There it goes. There it is. Just roll this thing forward. Like that. Alright, so I actually found this out back. I built this years and years ago, back when I was working on the CBR 600. So let's modify this to get this to fit on here. It's going to make it a little bit easier to work on if we can easily roll it around. There we go. Yeah. It's not super accurate, but all it really needs to do is just hold this thing up. That seems to work. Now we can roll this thing around. Alright, so time to tear this thing apart. Now there still is a slight possibility that it's just the piston rings and the cylinder walls are fine. I'll be honest, I'd be surprised if that was the case, but you never know. But yeah, enough procrastination. Let's tear into this thing. Ooh. Looks pretty clean. That's good. So I know that you have to, with these, you have to back them off slowly and just do like a fraction of a turn each and just back and forth, back and forth. Just do that for each of these. I'm thinking of editing this video differently. Instead of music, instead of time lapses, for this video, I may just not do that, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. So I know music kind of gets boring fast. Just time lapses. All I do is time lapses. See if you guys like it or not. Oh. Yeah, maybe I should have put it at top dead center before. I did forget to, I think you're supposed to put it on top dead center on the first cylinder, so therefore it's not any pressure on anything super critical. Let's see how tight these things are. Oh, not that bad. Just crack them all. Work away in the center. Ooh, here we go. It's not looking good. Oh, let me put this down. Alright, moment of truth. How bad are these cylinder walls? Oh. They're not as bad. They're not as bad as I thought. Ooh. Oh. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. Oh my Lord. Oh no. Well, I had a feeling. So one thing I'm really curious, because the really interesting thing is, and I'll show you guys the scoring in a second, and let me just clean this stuff. This whole part of the cylinder walls on each of these, they're fine. The scratches and the scoring is only this part of this, the bottom part, where any debris or dust would land. That is where all the cylinder walls are scratched and heavily scored. So, could it be all the dust that's been getting in this engine? And that's what's causing all this scoring? So this is cylinder number 1. You can see some kind of deep pits right here, and just kind of general just bad scoring. This is cylinder number 2, same thing, pretty bad pits, pretty bad scoring. I highly doubt a cylinder hone would get rid of this stuff. This is the third cylinder. This one's the worst one. The middle two are the worst, but this is definitely the worst one out of all of them, because this one has a really deep hole in the side of this. So yeah, that's pretty bad. And this one is the fourth cylinder. This one's actually not that bad. It's still pretty bad, but it's not as bad as the other 3 cylinders. So honestly, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be, but it's still pretty bad. So we gotta fix it. We gotta do something with it. Now, right now we have 2 options. Option A is just buying on eBay just a new case for this thing. There's always the option of just buying a new engine on eBay, but let's maybe not try to do. Let's try to fix this one. We could buy a new case, which I looked on eBay, and they're actually pretty cheap. They're like $300. I found 4 of them last night, but the unfortunate thing is, they all had scoring on the cylinder walls. So, they all have the same problem, and option B is take the cylinder walls, take the jugs, and ship them off to a company that's going to bore these out and rehome them and do everything, and then I just got to get bigger pistons, bigger piston rings, and basically just rebuild this thing. And it looks like that's what we got to do. So either way, we have to completely take this thing apart because, unfortunately, because this is a 2007 CBR 1000, the cylinder walls, the jugs aren't separate from the bottom case. It's all one big piece. This top piece of this case on the cylinder walls is one piece. So basically, to take this stuff off, we have to completely tear this engine all the way apart, unfortunately. So, and if I gotta do that, I don't want to do it on the floor. Let's put this thing on a table. So let's get this out of here. Let's get it back in the temporary garage. Let's get that metal table back in here and I guess start tearing this thing all the way apart. So. Gotta get a running start. Alright, now we gotta get the rut crawler back in its place. Perfect. I know you guys have been asking, like, when is the next video of this project? I do want to do more stuff with this. I want to take this thing to Windrock. I think this would be amazing at Windrock. And on some of the easier trails, I'm not sure if I can go on the harder double diamond trails. But yeah, I do want to do another video of this just soon. I'm busy on some other stuff. Maybe in the springtime, I'll pull this thing back out. Because I actually just watched a video on how to disassemble one of these things, and there's bolts on the bottom you have to get it, as well as the top, to split the two cases apart. So it's going to be a lot easier working on this thing on the table. Alright, so this thing gonna stay. Not gonna fall. I do need to. So I just realized I have to drain the oil. I forgot to do that. So let's lift this thing back up. Let me go grab an oil pan. I don't think I've ever changed the oil in this aside from when I first put it, you know, in this vehicle. So doesn't look that bad. I've definitely seen worse. We'll also see if there's metal shavings in this. Hopefully not. Definitely need to clean this engine, but I'll do that as I'm taking it apart. Oh, that's on there. Oh, man. Yep, I gotta use a tool. This thing won't come off. There it goes. Alright, it's good enough. It's been dripping for like 10 minutes. Calling it good. Alright, let's start tearing into this thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna start disassembling it. This is definitely not a how-to video. There's already enough of those on YouTube. This is more just entertainment, so. There's more oil, yay. Let me clean this thing. Yeah, I just spent like 20 minutes cleaning this whole thing, and it definitely needed it. So, what is this? This little, it's like a arm that's bolted to the case, and it's got like increments into it. No idea what that is. I want to Google it. Come on. I'm fighting the magnet. There it is. I'm not sure if I have to take this off, so leave it on for now. See if I can pull this whole thing out. Clutch pads look good. That's a good sign. So, this nut requires a 30mm 12 point. I didn't have one, so I had to run out to Lowe's and go get one. Please fit. Alright. I don't want to hold this thing. How in the world are you supposed to do this? Ouch. There it goes. Ouch. There it goes. Alright, don't forget the needle bearings. Alright, so now we gotta remove this cover. This is for the shifter and everything. It's amazing how compact and complicated these engines are. Just everything is cram-packed in like the tightest package possible. There's all these moving parts everywhere in these things. It's amazing. That's why I love motorcycle engines. They're so compact and powerful, and they got everything in them. They got the transmission, they got the clutch, all in one nice and neat package. There's that. Sweet. And I'm basically I'm following what this guy did in this video of taking one of these engines apart. I'm just basically following what he did. It doesn't want to come off, and I don't want to force it and break anything. Ugh. I do not want to break anything. Ugh. Ah, man, that's on there. That is on there. Let me get my impact. Alright, let's see if the impact will do it. In his video, this thing just popped right off. But on mine, I guess it's a little bit more. Put it on there. Come on. There it is. Sheesh. That thing was on there. Yeah, good thing I didn't force it with the, without holding it in place with the screwdriver, because I would have totally sheared that pin off. So one thing that's really interesting on this engine is there's this writing on here, GK 4014, GK 4014, and then in here also GK 4014. So I'm not sure what, I have no idea what that means. I don't know if it means that somebody else has been in here and done work to it. That doesn't look like it's from factory, I don't think. Alright, next thing is transmission. Apparently you just undo these bolts and then it just comes sliding out. Oh yeah. There it goes. And hopefully this thing just comes sliding out without falling to pieces. It's amazing how compact this thing is. Ooh, is that some wear on the gears? Ooh, crap. There's some slight wear on the gear teeth. Great. That's not good. I don't think it really, it doesn't, it's not going to weaken the teeth on these gears. If anything, they're just going to wear down fast. I don't know. I'm trying to convince myself that this doesn't need replacing because the more I'm taking this thing apart, just the more expensive this is becoming. And I'm trying to convince myself I don't need a new transmission. But the gear teeth don't look great, to be honest. This is becoming more and more expensive. Alright, it's now time to flip this engine over and... Don't drop it. Don't drop it. And take off the oil pan. Alright, slowly lean her over. It's gonna spill a bunch of coolant. Yep. Whoa. Slowly lean this thing over. Alright. Let me clean this thing a bit better. Yeah, and this is the unfortunate thing of these '07 CBR engines is you literally have to disassemble the entire engine just to get to the cylinders if you have to do any work on them. It's weird that there's no gaskets. There's no gaskets on this engine. It's all it's like that silicone RTV, whatever it's called, gasket maker stuff. Well, the good news is I don't see like any metal shavings in the oil pan. There's some stuff in the oil filter, but it's not metal. It more just looks like just gunk. It's not metal. Yeah, and before I reassemble this thing, once I figure out the cylinder problem, before I reassemble this, I'm gonna heavily clean this entire thing because it needs it. Now to split these cases in half. Oh boy. Just as always, don't loosen them all. Don't loosen one all the way out. You gotta loosen them all incrementally. So therefore you don't put any stress on the case and crack it. Crack these just a little bit because these are the main bolts. Now, I think we just lift the crankshaft out. Actually, no, you don't do that. No. Fuck, really? I think you have to undo each one of these and then pull the pistons out to get this. Holy crap! I literally have to take apart this entire thing. Because no, I can't pull the pistons out this way. Oops. Perfect. Yeah, all these look like they're in really good shape. So that's awesome. So now I should be able to just pull this out. Don't drop it, don't bend it, don't do anything, don't break it. Come on. I'm gonna put these back on here. Alright, moment of truth, seeing how bad the pistons are. Ooh. Yeah. They're not great. They're not great. It's more the skirts on the pistons than the piston rings itself. So is this the one with the big chunk taken out of it? Yeah. Oh, dang. Dang. Yep. That's a pretty big chunk taken out of that. Wow. So that's what that's from. And that may have been, I know you guys can't see it, I'll do close-ups in a second. That may have been from when this seized at Durham Town. Yeah, all these skirts, I think that's what these are called, the piston rings, or the piston skirts, all of these are heavily scratched, heavily scored. So yeah, it was both the pistons and the cylinder walls that were just heavily scored and scratched. Yeah, let me clean this up and I'll show you guys some close-ups. Yeah, you can clearly see that there is heavy scoring on the piston skirts on here. If this thing would focus. Is this focused? I don't know. This screen on this camera is pretty dirty. And this is the only piston that has damage on the top here. All the other pistons only have damage on the skirts of the piston, and it's only on the fronts. The backs of these pistons are in decent shape. They're not great. There's like some scratches, but it's way better than the front. All these pistons have the heavy damage on the front, aside from piston number 1. This is piston number 2, which is the worst one. You can see the back is pretty good. Then you go to the front, and it's like, wow, that's pretty bad. This was the cylinder that had that really big hole in the side of the cylinder, and yeah, that's the corresponding side of the piston. That is a really deep gouge in the side of this thing. One thing that's interesting is the piston rings themselves. They feel really smooth. They don't feel like they're chewed up. They don't feel like they're scored or anything. So I'm kind of now that I'm seeing this, I'm kind of thinking that maybe this damage isn't from the piston rings. Focus! Come on, there it goes. Maybe this damage isn't from the piston rings and isn't from this engine seizing. What if this damage is from dirt and dust getting in the engine? We know dust was getting in the engine from the bad, cheap air filters I was running. But maybe sand was getting in here and then causing the damage on the cylinder walls, and it was just, getting really bad and then, scoring the pistons and everything. Because before, when this engine seized at Durham Town, we were thinking like, oh, the piston rings seized to the cylinder walls, and now they're all messed up, and now they're scoring the cylinders. No, I don't think this damage is from the piston rings. They feel fine. So I just measured the hole that's in cylinder number 3, and it's somewhere between 30 to 35 thou deep, which, does that make it to where I can't bore these out? I'm not sure. So I gotta call around some machine shops and see, can I bore these out? How expensive is that gonna be? I'm still gonna try to find just another case on eBay. I think that's gonna be the cheapest option. But if I can bore these out, I'm gonna try to do it and just get bigger pistons, bigger piston rings. And as far as the transmission, I will see if I can get a new one. I know some of the gears on that transmission, the teeth are kind of. I think it's not caused from metal shavings. I think that's just surface rust. Because remember, the bottom end of this case was from Facebook Marketplace, and that engine was sitting outside and it had water in it. So that may have been just from the water in the cylinders, a lot of moisture in there. So. If you guys remember, I do have another CBR 1000 that has the bottom case all cracked open. I may see if I can pull the transmission out of that, and if it's in better condition, I'll definitely put it in here. But I don't know if I'm gonna want to spend more money on a new transmission for this thing. It's already sounding very expensive trying to fix this thing. So, but if I can pull the other transmission out of the spare engine, I'll definitely see if I can do that and see if it's in better condition. I was talking with Dirt Gear, and he agrees with me. This could be dust, it could be from dirt, but he says that it could also be from overheating this engine, which I'll admit I have been doing. I have been running this thing very hot, and which makes sense because if, you know, stuff overheats, stuff expands too much, and it scores the cylinders. So this very well could be just from overheating this engine. So I will look into seeing if I can install an oil cooler on this thing, and I will, because I can't put a bigger radiator on that frame, or it's already, you know, barely fits in there. But I will see if I can put a fan shroud on the radiator, because right now I have the fan just pushed up against the radiator and it's only sucking air where the blades are. I should back it out and put a shroud on it so that fan sucks air through the entire radiator. So I'll definitely look into that to try to get this thing a little bit cooler and running cooler. But for now, I'm just gonna put all this stuff to the side because it's probably gonna take me. This may take me weeks. This may take me months to either bore this out or to get a new one. So for now, I'm just gonna put all this stuff to the side, work on some other stuff in the meantime, and once I either bore this out and get new pistons, or I just find a new case and new pistons, I gotta get new pistons anyways. Once we do that, then I'll pull all the stuff back out and start rebuilding it. But for now, I'm just gonna put all this stuff to the side and work on some other stuff. And I'll also look into much better air filters. We need that. So there's just a lot of things we need to fix on this vehicle. So anyway, guess that's it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video.